I spent the summer working with the American Red Cross as a disaster cycle services intern. My parents were always volunteers for the American Red Cross, and I always wanted to go along and help them. I was never able to donate blood, and they didn't allow minors to volunteer at most blood drives, so I knew that when I was looking for an internship, this is where I wanted to intern. I spent a really long time researching different positions and interviewing with different members of the staff at the American Red Cross. And during my time as an intern, I learned so much about the structure of such a large organization, as well as the importance of public health accessibility. The American Red Cross's mission statement is as follows. The American Red Cross prevents and alleviates human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. Through their large volunteer database, the American Red Cross is mainly run through community volunteers with funds donated by local and national businesses and companies. The organization has 7 principles, including humanity, impartiality, neutrality, independence, voluntary service, unity, and universality. I also took a number of intensive training courses surrounding diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as training in the case of a local disaster. The first training course I took was human resources, specifically regarding how to support those who have encountered any form of disaster, whether that be fire, storm, hurricane of any kind, tornado, etc. And following the HR training, I took a course called Shelter Fundamentals. This course focused on the authorization that I would have needed, or the Red Cross would have needed to open the shelter, as well as the structure and the rules behind the disaster sheltering itself. The next course I took was called Mass Care, an overview, and during this course I learned how to set up a disaster facility, check in individuals, and I learned the system to provide essentials to those inside the shelter. I also learned how to handle necessary medication and provide some emergency medical services to those who need it. With the Mass Care training, I focused on helping the community at a larger scale while simultaneously focusing on the care of an individual who would have been inside of the shelter. The final training was titled Everyone is Welcome, and this seemed to be more of a sensitivity training, as it gave points on the importance of treating everyone with respect no matter their background. A large section of this specific course was focused on helping those with disabilities, and one of my biggest takeaways from all of my training courses was from this one, and that was how important it is to ask someone if they need help before just stepping in to help them. Following all of these training courses, I was provided with a list of hundreds of different facilities located in Northeast Ohio. My job was to call all of these facilities and confirm that they wanted to remain as a disaster shelter in the case of a local disaster. I needed to confirm details as well as gather information in the case of authorizing the opening and the use of a shelter. And while at first I thought nothing of this task and I was actually a little bored just making phone calls, I eventually understood the importance of it. This became a positive experience in which I was able to secure and resecure hundreds of facilities for those in need in the case of an emergency. I now know that going forward, that one simple task will continue to positively impact the community in the case of a local disaster. These facilities varied from churches and community centers to schools and even a couple different restaurants. And while some of these facilities could shelter only about 20 or so people, others could shelter up to 2,000 or 3,000. Although I knew these shelters existed, I never could have imagined the planning and the organization behind such a large-scale shelter setup. And although I've seen it in movies and shows, I never really imagined that it was such a real reality for some people and a situation that some people really had to go through. The American Red Cross now has a long list of facilities that are willing to offer support and shelter to their surrounding communities. One challenge that I faced with this task was the absence of staff at facilities due to COVID-19. Because so many people were working from home because of the pandemic, I was unable to reach a few facilities because they either had no website or the only phone number provided was the office number. And with everyone staying home so much more because of the pandemic, it's more important now than ever to have a plan in place in the case that someone can't remain at their house for whatever reason. Going to school in Louisiana, a lot of people lose their homes due to natural disasters such as large storms and hurricanes, and this is the leading cause of people losing their homes in the state of Louisiana. What I didn't know was that the majority of unhoused people in Ohio lost housing due to tornadoes and large house fires, and in fact, house fires account for the largest number of people in Ohio who lose their homes. Along with providing sheltering to those who lost their home, the American Red Cross supports these families with far more than just shelters. And as an intern, I would be tasked with calling those who experience homelessness due to a fire, storm, or for whatever reason, and explain the different services offered by the American Red Cross. The American Red Cross provides support services for those who have lost their homes, offering help with finding doctors, therapists, buying new clothing, food shopping, and any other support that a disaster victim might need. And that goes for every age, every range of background that someone might come from. The Red Cross is there to support them. Along with calling individuals after the fact, the American Red Cross offers to install smoke detectors for free for those who need them. So this is due to the fact that so many Ohioans lose their homes to fires, which could be preventable with a smoke detector or fire alarm, which could prevent these fires from becoming so big that they engulf the whole house. Another service offered by the American Red Cross is called the Pillowcase Project, and this is a service intended for children in 3rd through 5th grade, and it's to teach them how to prepare in the case of a disaster. So usually it's an education class with supportive props such as pillowcases and some like emergency contact cards that they would carry around. The Pillowcase Project was actually founded by Tulane students during Hurricane Katrina. Students didn't know what to pack and how to carry all of their stuff. So a lot of the students ended up throwing whatever they could, whatever was the most important to them in their dorm rooms, and they just threw it in their pillowcase, and they left with that pillowcase in hand and not much else. And the Pillowcase Project emphasizes the importance of throwing essentials in your pillowcase as opposed to just toys or stuffed animals, so that everybody's prepared with their personal emergency supplies. So the project increases youth awareness on hazards and helps to build skills in managing emergency action. So with so many services offered to educate the community in public health, I knew that the American Red Cross would be an amazing place to gain insight and experience in the public health field. And taking this capstone class alongside the internship provided me with an array of different perspectives to keep in mind when looking at and working with the diverse aspects of public health. I was able to relate the articles and videos I read during class to the people I was working with, which really gave me a first-hand example of the information that I learned. And since I was little, I knew that I wanted to go into the medical field and help individuals in need. This internship helped me widen my perspective, giving me the opportunity to see how community public health really plays a role in the health of an individual. And following my role as a disaster cycling services intern, I've actually broadened my ideas and prospects for the future, and I'm now considering going into social work in the public health field. Something like this would give me the opportunity to help multiple people and families communally while still making a difference on the individual level. And I've always wanted to work with kids, so ideally I would specialize in social work for children or whole families who lose their homes due to disasters.